Jin breaks down in tears. The shocking reason behind Jungkook's outburst. What really happened between BTS's eldest and youngest? The silence in the rehearsal room was deafening. No music, no laughter, no casual banter. Only the sound of Jungkook's voice, sharp and unrelenting, echoing off the studio walls. And then, something no one expected. Jin, the eldest member of BTS, broke down in tears. What could possibly drive the group's most composed figure to such visible distress? Why did Jungkook, known for his respectful demeanor, raise his voice in a moment that stunned even the staff? What mistake had Jin made that led to such an emotional confrontation? This was not a scene from a scripted drama. It was real. It was raw. And it left everyone in the room shaken. Sources close to the group revealed that the incident occurred during a closed-door rehearsal session for an upcoming performance. The atmosphere had been tense from the beginning, with mounting pressure surrounding the group's return to the stage after a prolonged hiatus. Expectations were high, and the members were pushing themselves beyond their limits. But no one anticipated that the breaking point would come from a misstep by Jin, one that Jungkook could not overlook. Jungkook's reaction was immediate and intense. Witnesses described his tone as uncharacteristically stern, his expression unreadable. He had always been the youngest, the one who looked up to Jin with admiration and affection. But in that moment, something shifted. The respect remained, but it was overshadowed by frustration, disappointment, and a sense of urgency that demanded accountability. What exactly did Jin do? According to insiders, the mistake was not minor. It was a critical error during choreography that disrupted the entire formation. The group had been rehearsing a complex sequence that required precise timing and spatial awareness. Jin's miscalculation not only threw off the rhythm but also caused a near collision between members. The choreography had been designed to reflect a narrative of unity and synchronization. Any deviation risked undermining the entire performance. Jungkook, who had been leading the rehearsal with meticulous focus, reportedly paused the music and addressed Jin directly. His words were not disrespectful, but they were firm. He questioned Jin's commitment, his concentration, and whether he had fully grasped the importance of the moment. The room fell silent. Jin, visibly shaken, attempted to explain himself, but the damage had been done. What followed was even more unexpected. Jin, known for his calm demeanor and ability to defuse tension, began to cry. Not out of anger, but out of shame. He admitted that he had been distracted, that his mind had been elsewhere, and that he had let the team down. The weight of his own mistake, combined with Jungkook's reaction, overwhelmed him. The emotional gravity of the moment was palpable. Other members remained quiet, allowing the two to navigate the confrontation without interference. It was a rare glimpse into the internal dynamics of BTS, a group often portrayed as harmonious and unbreakable. But beneath the surface, they are human. They make mistakes. They hold each other accountable. And sometimes, emotions spill over. Jin's tears were not a sign of weakness. They were a reflection of his deep sense of responsibility. As the eldest member, he had always carried the burden of leadership, even when it was not explicitly assigned. He had guided Jungkook from his teenage years into adulthood, offering support and wisdom. To be reprimanded by the very person he had mentored was a moment of reckoning. Jungkook's anger, too, was not without context. He had been under immense pressure to ensure the group's performance met the highest standards. The choreography was symbolic, representing their journey, their struggles, and their unity. Any flaw in execution risked diluting that message. His reaction was not personal, it was professional. But it struck a personal chord. The aftermath of the incident was quiet but profound. Jin left the rehearsal early, accompanied by a staff member. Jungkook remained behind, reviewing the choreography alone. The other members dispersed, each processing the moment in their own way. There was no immediate resolution, no public statement, no social media post to explain what had happened. But those who witnessed it knew that something had shifted, in the days that followed. Jin reportedly withdrew from group activities, citing the need for reflection. Jungkook, meanwhile, continued rehearsing with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The tension lingered, unspoken but undeniable. Fans began to speculate, noticing subtle changes in group dynamics during public appearances. Jin appeared more reserved, Jungkook more distant. Was this the beginning of a rift within BTS? Or was it simply a moment of truth, a necessary confrontation that would ultimately strengthen their bond? The answer remains unclear. What is certain, however, is that the incident revealed a side of BTS rarely seen by the public. It exposed the emotional toll of perfection, the fragility of leadership, and the complexity of relationships forged under the spotlight. It reminded fans that behind the polished performances and curated images are individuals grappling with pressure, pride, and the pursuit of excellence. Jin's mistake was not unforgivable, but it was significant enough to trigger a response that shook the group's foundation. Jungkook's reaction was not cruel, but it was forceful enough to leave a lasting impact. Together, they navigated a moment that tested their resilience, their respect for one another, and their commitment to the team that as BTS continues to evolve. Moments like these will shape their journey. They will stumble, they will confront, they will cry, but they will also grow. And perhaps, in the quiet aftermath of confrontation, they will find a deeper understanding of what it means to be a team, not just on stage, but in life. The rehearsal room may have returned to silence, but the echoes of that day remain. Jin's tears, Jungkook's voice, the weight of a mistake, the courage to confront it, and the question that still lingers: what happens when the youngest challenges the eldest? Not out of defiance, but out of necessity. This was not just a moment of conflict. It was a moment of truth. And for BTS, truth is the foundation upon which they continue to build. The tension did not dissipate overnight. In fact, the emotional residue from that rehearsal lingered for days, quietly reshaping the atmosphere within BTS. Jin's absence from subsequent practice sessions was not officially addressed, but it was felt. His usual presence, marked by light-hearted jokes, subtle guidance, and quiet leadership, was missing. Jungkook, meanwhile, maintained a stoic focus, his energy channeled entirely into perfecting the choreography. Yet, even in his silence, there was a visible weight pressing on him. The confrontation had left a mark not only on Jin, but on Jungkook himself. Behind closed doors, staff members whispered about the shift in dynamics. The youngest had challenged the eldest, and while the confrontation had been rooted in professionalism, it had pierced something deeper. Jin's mistake had not only disrupted the performance, it had triggered a moment of reckoning. For years, Jungkook had been the one guided, mentored, protected. But in that rehearsal, he had stepped into a role that demanded authority, even if it meant confronting someone he deeply respected. Observers noted that Jungkook's demeanor changed in subtle ways. He became more assertive, more vocal during rehearsals, more meticulous in his expectations. It was as if the